Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Following up on LNG, multiple studies of LNG exports have pointed out that the U.S. Projects are in a race to meet worldwide demand for LNG with international projects all around the world. Do you agree that delays in the DOE permitting process are putting U.S. export projects at a disadvantage compared to competing projects in the Middle East, Russia, and elsewhere?
Well, I'm not sure I'd characterize delays. I mean, I'm starting my own process now
Yes, sir.
expeditiously, but I do want to point out the pitfalls of litigation, et cetera, are there, so we have to do it right. So I want to be very, very systematic, transparent, and march through these as expeditiously as I can.
And I would also be remiss, being a representative from Virginia, even though I'm a long way from the shore, that Virginia believes that we have a lot of natural gas untapped offshore and would love to be able to get to that and any oil that might be out there as well. And that's been the policy of at least the House of Delegates in Virginia since 2004 when I was there, and has been the policy of the state as a whole, I think, for about the last 4 or 5 years. But if you could expedite that, that would be great. We're ready to get started.
Not my lane.
I understand. I will tell you that it's interesting when you study all of these issues and you look at the environment, you look at ways and problems and things that we have to move forward on, and it's one of those things that I've always loved is that in the 1890s, the major cities of the world, particularly northeastern United States and some others, were very concerned about the environmental problem that they were having with dealing with dead horses. And through technology, we were able to move forward without having that problem. They worried about having to deal with manure as high as 30-story buildings and the environmental impact of not being able to get the decaying horse carcasses out of the streets in a timely fashion when the population rose, and they were looking at projections out to 1930 and 1950. That being said, you were, I believe, the co-chairman of a group at MIT that did a report in 2007 on the future of coal. And while there are a number of difficulties that people look at with coal, there's also some really interesting technological advances that are moving forward. And so I would ask, why, when we look at the budget, do we not see more money being spent on looking at some of these technological advances that have come forward? And I would point to a number of things. One of the things that was mentioned there was a chemical looping, and that was mentioned in that report. And now it appears that an Ohio State University professor whose first names I'm not familiar with how to pronounce, but his last name's easy, I think, Fan, has come up with a way to use coal. Obviously, it's in the preliminary stages, but to burn or to get the energy out of coal with virtually no pollutants. A little coal ash leftovers is about it. And he's now taking that, or they're taking that to Alabama, and DOE has some money in that. But I'm wondering why, when we look at reports, and I'm looking at one of the charts that we were provided, budget for applied energy, I'm wondering why we don't have more money going into projects like that to see if we can't make this technological feasible, since we are, in fact, in the United States, the kings of coal throughout the world.
Well, again, there is, I'll repeat, but not go into detail, there are, of course, the huge amount of money sitting there in advancing the CCS projects, some of which are also advancing the technologies along the lines you're saying. For example, one of the projects is a so-called oxy-combustion project, as opposed to a conventional boiler, et cetera. The chemical looping, very, very interesting. As was already said, we do have an increased focus on carbon capture technologies. So, you know, I think also advanced materials, very important for ultra-supercritical.
I think that means that we can count on you to embrace, develop, and ensure the success of these types of programs for transformational coal technologies. All right. And I just have a few seconds left, but I would ask that you continue to work in those directions and do fund. I believe it is the National Energy Technology Laboratory that's been working with the Ohio State project, even though they've only got $5 million. It was 15 years in the development. But I do have to say, when I look at this chart and I see, you know, biomass and biorefineries ahead of coal, I am disturbed by that, because I really believe that with our great resource out there of coal, that finding a way to make everybody happy in burning it and giving jobs back to the 9th District that have been stripped away over the last few years is extremely important, and I would encourage you to continue to pursue that and count on me in any way that I can be helpful in moving those projects forward. Thank you. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back this time, recognized